Bethlehem, Christmas 2019, and an unusual procession along the town's Star Street. For the Christian population here, this is special, a moment for pomp. In the Christmas story, it was this route which Mary, Joseph and a donkey took past inns which were full to a stable where Jesus was born in a manger. And this, they believe, is a fragment of that manger, returned on order of the Pope after centuries in Italy to Bethlehem.
Well, there's no question that this is a very important symbolic moment for Christians in this town, but it belies that much, much wider and ongoing struggle.
This is the story of today's Bethlehem. It is a place of deep frustration. A population that feels forgotten and strangled. And that word you hear over and over right across the land they call Palestine: occupation. It's 18 years since Israel began to build its separation barrier, a wall and a fence the length of the West Bank, which splits Israeli Jews from Palestinian Muslims and Christians. For Israel, it's a wall which is as necessary now as it ever was, justified, they say, because it stops terrorists. It keeps their people safe.
To come and see the art.
For Palestinians, though, it is a barrier to peace, an eyesore, of course, but much more than that.
And this is your house here?
Yes, this is my house, surrounded from three sides.
What they tell you here is that it's part of a land grab and a system of apartheid.
Imagine to live with the grey, dark grey, surrounded you.
Claire Anastas was born in Bethlehem. This is the family home. The view once was of her uncle's house and olive groves beyond. Now it's concrete.
So this here is what it looked like on the day that the wall went up. What was this, 2002?
2003.
2003.
Before Christmas time. It's so hard economically. It's in a big prison. Our life is limited, no freedom. And we feel that there's no justice for any Palestinian. And we don't know to whom we are belong to.
Claire remembers vividly the battles here, the Israeli crackdown against the Palestinian uprising, the Second Intifada as they called it.
That was some time ago. Today, in 2019, that there isn't fighting like we used to see. Does that mean that things are better or not?
It's another kind of fighting. We call it like hidden fighting, more than like direct fight to kill us. It's killing our soul. For me, it's more hurt than other things. When you live struggling with injuring your heart slowly, that's another kind of death. It's more terrible, actually.
Of course, it's up to both sides.
Just yards from Claire's house, but on the other side, a different story from the man who built the barrier.
And they were shooting from their town through the traffic that runs on the main highway of Israel.
Meet Danny Tiezer, a colonel now retired in the Israeli army. In 2002, on the orders of his government, he mapped the land and chose the route for the barrier.
You talk to anyone on the other side of that wall and they'll tell you that this, what we're looking at here, is one of the biggest barriers to peace in this region.
Well, before the fence was built, there was terror here. Before the
You're
fence,
talking 20 years ago, though.
I'm talking 20 years ago. That doesn't matter. The matter is living or not. And that's the main issue. The main issue is that we want to have good life with the Palestinians. The problem is that the Palestinian terror. At the moment that the Palestinian terror will stop and will have some arrangement to live together, there is no need for that.
It is true that since it was built, attacks by Palestinians on Israelis have dropped to a fraction of what they once were. And yet, coupled with the building of the wall, something else has been happening.
from every angle, from the north side to the west, to the south, and from the east. We are being surrounded by the settlements.
Back on the other side, we're driving with Suhail Khalilieh.
I'm really, at this point, very doubtful that it will go away soon.
It's clear that every aspect of life here on the Palestinian side is dominated by the wall and what it stands for.
At the right, you can see that old stores used to have life in it, and they were all closed off.
But it's the impact of Israeli settlements that he wants to show us.
If you look at the left side, this is part of a Efrat settlement, which is called the Seven Hill settlement, because it extend across 7 hills.
So this is an Israeli housing settlement inside the West Bank.
Inside the West Bank, all illegal.
And illegal, that's not just what you're saying, illegal.
Illegal under international law, and this is illegal. The settlements are contradictory to international law, UN resolutions.
Around 600,000 Jews live in about 140 settlements like this built across the West Bank. In their own gated communities on the Palestinian side of the wall, Israelis are populating what they believe to be their land, and with incentives from their government and now backing from Donald Trump's United States.
Because, you know, the Israelis believe that biblically or historically this is their ancestors' land, the land of Israel.
But the problem is it's also your land.
It's also our land. Still, you have no right to deport people, to force people off their land only to fulfill a biblical theory. You don't violate, you know, human rights in the name of God.
So where does all this leave things? Well, the level of entrenchment that we found on both sides is hard to exaggerate. To get back to the negotiating table will require bold leaders, both in Israel and in Palestine, leaders who are prepared to compromise, and right now they don't exist. In Israel, politics is a mess, with the third election in 11 months this coming March. And in Palestine, they haven't held any elections since 2006. The disconnect here between the people and their politicians is huge.
It is clear that the status quo is not sustainable, but the key to a peaceful and prosperous future here, well, that is still out of reach. Mark Stone, Sky News in the Holy Land.